Did you know that most employees get hurt the very first week on the job? That's right. The first week on the job is when most accidents happen. In fact, some statistics have shown that about 40% of accidents happen the very first week on the job. Now, that is why a safety orientation is not just important, it is essential. You have to have a great safety orientation so that you don't have people getting hurt, so that people know what to do and what to expect on the job. And it makes it so much better at the end of the year when your accident record is 40% better because you didn't have people getting hurt on the first week. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, you know what, my company's orientation, it's not great. You're not alone. And you're in the right place, because in this episode, I'm going to walk you through step by step what you need to do to make your safety orientation top notch. Because if you can make your orientation top notch, you can prevent those people from getting hurt. And in the big scheme of things, you'll actually improve employee retention. You see, when people get hurt, especially the first week on the job, they're already thinking, maybe I should be looking for a different job. So we want to prevent people from getting hurt. We want to increase employee retention, and a great safety orientation is the key. So let's dive in. Well, hey friend, David Sawyer here. I am a safety coach. I help busy managers prevent accidents and avoid OSHA. And quick timeout, if you haven't already done so, go to my website, helpwithosha.com, and download a free OSHA audit checklist. This is a great way to prepare your company for an unexpected OSHA visit. We explain the three-part framework that OSHA uses whenever they do a safety inspection. We also talk about some common mistakes that managers make during an OSHA inspection and how you can prepare your company for that unexpected visit. So it's a free resource. It is well worth your time. Go to my website, Help with OSHA, and download the checklist right now. All right, let's talk about orientations. So I cannot tell you how many times I walk into a company and I ask them, hey, how's your safety orientation? And they kind of give me this look like, it's not great. It could be better. We have one. Those are the answers I get, because the truth is there's not a lot of people that are proud of their orientation. They kind of feel like it's a hodgepodge of what's required to be talked about, and then it kind of gets blended in with HR, and it kind of we're talking about the time clock and the paychecks and the tax forms we're filling out, and then, oh, by the way, don't get hurt. You need to wear this PPE. So I would encourage you, pay attention as we walk through step by step, because the first step of a safety orientation is carving out time that very first day on the job so that you can set the tone for safety at your company. Now, that's step one. The first step is you have to explain that the company is committed to safety, so that employee, the brand new person that comes in, they realize, okay, it's my first day on the job. This is something they're talking to me about. This must be important. So you stress that we are committed to safety. We're committed to your safety. We're committed to everybody else's safety. And it's a great time to put in the fact that safety is everyone's responsibility. It's not just the safety manager. It's not just your supervisor. It is your responsibility. When you take a job working for us, we expect you to be involved in the safety program. So it's important that they're encouraged to ask questions, to speak up when they see something that's not safe, and to know that they are an active participant, right? They're not just on the sideline. They're not just sitting there watching as things are happening. We want them to be engaged in the safety program. And, lots of times people don't know how to do that. They don't really know what that looks like. So it's up to us to kind of explain these are the expectations that we have. You really want to set the tone. Now, after you set the tone, the next step is you're going to explain general safety. General safety. So For general safety, we're going to talk about PPE, personal protective equipment. When you're on the floor, you're required to wear this gear, right? Whatever that might be for your company. Some companies, it's like, hey, when you walk out the door from the office into the production area, you're going to have a pair of safety glasses on. You're always going to have safety glasses on. In fact, if you don't have safety glasses on, you're going to have the very first person you see say, hey, you need to have safety glasses on. You want that kind of built-in culture so that people know, all right, this is my job, this is my gear, this is what's required. So we're talking about, glasses, maybe hearing protection. We might talk about this kind of shoes that we're going to be wearing, the footwear. And then we're going to talk about housekeeping. We're going to talk about how we take care of our aisles, how we have pedestrian walkways. We're going to talk about common walkways and intersections. We might even have to cover how to get from the parking lot into the building if we have any kind of outside traffic areas. So this is just kind of common things. What kind of personal protective equipment am I wearing? How do I get in the facility? Where's the break room? How do I keep things neat and tidy in my work area? I would highly encourage you talk about cell phone usage at this point. This is just kind of general safety. So you're going to explain when cell phones can be used and when they can't be used. And you're going to cover just kind of an overwhelming, hey, we're building on that foundation. The foundation is we're committed to safety. The next layer is everyone has these general requirements. After we do that, we talk about common hazards, and we talk about accident reporting and accident response. So after we've covered kind of the overview, then we're going to talk about some of the specific hazards that come up. So you might have different departments. Back in my day, I remember I was working in a fiberglass shop, and we had basically two different departments. We had a lamination department where people were laying fiberglass. There was a lot of chemicals. There was a lot of breathing hazards. There was flammable hazards. And so we had a one side of the shop there was a wall and a door, and you went in the lamination department. And in the lamination department, you had to have certain protective equipment on, and you knew the hazards in that area. So if somebody was being assigned to lamination, we were going to explain, okay, in lamination, we got a lot of chemicals. Here's where the safety data sheets are stored. Safety data sheets are going to tell you everything you need to know about the chemicals. We have warning signs up on the walls. We have housekeeping procedures where we're cleaning up at the end of every shift. So you're just kind of explaining these are the common hazards in that area. Going back to that, we had cranes, we had overhead hazards. So we were explaining anytime a crane operator's moving the overhead crane, we're going to have everybody stand off to the side so that they're never in danger of having something go over their head. We have forklifts that come through the area. You are never allowed to drive a forklift unless you're authorized and trained by the company. You have to be certified by the company. So we explain this, these are hazards of this department. These are hazards in this area. And then we would talk about the production area, which was the other side of the wall. Now, this did not have the same chemical hazards, but it did have a lot more mechanical hazards. There were more power tools. There were grinders. There were different types of equipment that were being used that had to be trained for people that were using it. Had to wear eye protection. So there was different types of hazards in the production area. And during this time, we would explain, hey, these are the common areas. These are the common hazards for the areas. After that is when we talk about accident response procedures. So you want to clearly explain that if you see something that looks unsafe, you need to tell your immediate supervisor. So this is when we build in that chain of command where they know, okay, I'm working in this department. If I see something bad, I'm not going to tell Larry, my friend. I'm not going to tell this new coworker that I just met. I'm going to make sure I let my supervisor know about the hazard. So reporting hazards, reporting near misses, making sure they know this is an expectation. We don't sweep things under the rug. We talk about them and we fix them so that nobody gets hurt in the future. If you're walking through an area and you notice a spill, Well, you're not just going to, oh, yeah, look, there's a spill and I'm going to walk around it. You're expected to clean up the spill. You're expected to pitch in and help. You're expected to put a cone to mark the area. Whatever is again, the expectations for the company. But we talk about near misses, and then we talk about accidents. If somebody gets hurt, anytime you get hurt, you have to notify your immediate supervisor. From there, we're going to get you the medical care that you need. And we're going to, depending on what the severity of it is, whether it's calling an ambulance to come pick you up, or whether it's just documenting it as a first aid, where we got a first aid cabinet, we got somebody that's going to put a Band-Aid and make sure that you're good to go. Whatever the severity is, it's always going to be reported. So again, reporting near misses, reporting accidents, that's a key part of the orientation. You want them to know my immediate supervisor is the person I'm talking to. And when I'm talking to my immediate supervisor, they have been trained on how to handle this scenario so that they get me the medical care I need and it's documented correctly. All right, after that, then we move on and we're talking about emergency procedures. So this is where we're going through the basic fire drills. We're explaining fire extinguishers. We're explaining the pass method, pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. We're also telling them that they're not required to use fire extinguishers, but they're there in the event that they need them. We're going to talk about the alarm system. We're going to talk about what to do if there's severe weather, the overall emergency procedures for the company. Now, mind you, this is meant to be an orientation. So the problem with the orientations is it's kind of like getting a big fire hose and pointing at somebody and spraying. The orientation has to cover the important stuff with none of the fluff. It also helps to add a little bit of humor into it, just so people know, hey, this is important, but you got to have people loosened up while they're talking because their mind is thinking about 15 different things. And so you want to say, hey, when we're talking about fire, this is what you need to know. We're talking about tornadoes. This is what you need to know. And again, you're reaffirming that supervisor so they know this is your go-to person. This is the person that's going to give you instructions. This is the person that's going to do the head count when you get outside the building. So they're clear on what's expected. Now, the last big chunk of the orientation is going to be talking about job-specific safety programs. So as an example, somebody's going to be driving a forklift and shipping and receiving. We're going to explain when they're going to get trained and certified on the forklift. We're going to talk about maybe they have to wear a respirator. We're going to talk about the specifics for the respirator. If they are authorized to perform lockout tagout, we're going to give them some authorized lockout tagout training. During the general safety, they should already get an overview of what lockout is. That's kind of just a big sweeping thing of making sure people know this is what it is. This is what you don't do. You don't try to remove the locks. You leave the locks on. It's kind of silly. You wouldn't think you'd have to tell people that, but trust me, you do have to make sure they understand that the locks for lockout need to be left alone. But if you're going to be authorized employees, if you got somebody that's coming in, they're working in the maintenance department, then they're going to need to be trained on the machine-specific procedures. They're going to need to know the lockout equipment. They'll need to be provided with the equipment. So that's kind of the next level of orientation. And everyone's going to get the general orientation. Typically, it's going to be between an hour and a half and 2 hours long. Depending on the industry, if you're working in an office, it might be simply, 30 or 40 minutes long. But if you're working in a processing plant or a manufacturing facility, typically the shortest it's going to be is about an hour and a half. And I don't like going longer than 2 hours, just personal preference. I know some companies, if it's a high hazard company, like where we got lots of hazards, if you're working in a foundry or something where there's just major hazards, then you're going to maybe have an all-day safety orientation where you dedicate a full day to going through it. Keep in mind, you can change this and expand different parts the way you want, but the goal is overall to have people understand the safety program so that they don't get hurt that first week on the job, right? Because this isn't the only safety training they're getting. They're going to get more training on top of this over the next few weeks and few months. But the first day on the job, they need to get the essentials. They need to get and understand the really important parts of the business. So that's the specific things. That's the fifth one. The last thing I'll say, and this is just a tip because I've learned this the hard way, make sure you use a checklist to go down what you have reviewed with people. And then sometimes I always have a quiz at the end that is an overarching quiz that covers a couple questions on each topic. And at the bottom of the quiz, I have an acknowledgement form where they fill it out that says, I have gone through so-and-so's company orientation, safety orientation, and if I have any questions, I know who to ask. I feel confident and safe in my job. It's a way for them to take ownership over the safety orientation because they just sat through an hour and a half of training, and we want them to go, hey, wait a minute, I don't understand. When the alarm goes off, where am I supposed to go? We want them to ask questions. So that sign off at the very end of the orientation is designed to acknowledge that they have been trained, they know what to do, and most of all, they know what the expectations are, so that if they fall short of those over the next few weeks, we can always point them back and go, hey, you went through the orientation, you learned this is the PPE that's required. You have to wear safety glasses, you have to wear steel-toed shoes, you have to wear a bump cap, whatever it might be. So that's the time to have that form signed off on. Again, use a checklist. Now, oftentimes I'm asked, well, David, should I just use PowerPoint? Should I walk them through? There's people have different preferences for this. Personally, I like doing a video or PowerPoint that's consistent. That way everyone's getting the same information every time. And then pairing that with a walkthrough of the facility. So the first day on the job, they're getting a tour of what they're getting ready to work in, right? After they've gotten the safety presentation. And ideally, you do the safety presentation, then you do a walkthrough tour, and then you come back to the classroom area and you answer any follow-up questions. Because people might not have any questions after the initial presentation, but then they walk around, they're like, wait a minute, I knew you had forklifts. I didn't know they were stand-up forklifts. I've never driven a stand-up forklift. Oh, I knew you had chemicals, but I didn't know you had that one kind of chemical that I'm concerned with, you know. So whatever it is, you want them to feel like they can ask questions and they can follow up so they're not kept in the dark. Now, having said all that, I want to circle back to what I said at the very beginning. If you haven't already, go to my website, helpwithosha.com, download a free OSHA audit checklist. It is a great way to prepare your team. It really goes like a hand into a glove with the safety orientation because you want your leadership team to be prepared for an unexpected OSHA audit. You don't want to have anybody caught off guard. Until we talk again, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, share it with somebody else, share it with another manager, and please do everything you can to keep the people you work with safe because no one should get hurt at work.